Welcome back, everyone, for another deep dive. This time, we're going back to 1983.
1983.
Yeah, but not just any place in 1983.
Oh,
We're
yeah.
going inside the Vatican City walls.
Inside the Vatican.
Yeah, picture yourself as a teenager,
Okay.
living there. That was Emanuela Orlandi's world.
It's fascinating.
15 years old,
Yeah.
loved music,
Mm-hmm.
and lived in this unique city within a city.
Right?
Then June 22nd happened,
Yeah.
and Emanuela vanished.
What's so compelling about Emanuela's case is how routine, how normal everything seemed before that.
Yeah.
There was nothing to suggest initially that she ran away.
Right, it was a completely normal Wednesday, flute lesson, a quick chat with her sister about a weird job offer. Someone made her, and then silence.
And that small detail, the job offer, that's what's so fascinating about cases like this. Every piece of information, no matter how insignificant it might seem at first, becomes a crucial piece of the puzzle.
Absolutely. After that phone call, fleeting glimpses, whispers, that's all investigators had to go on. Someone thought they spotted Emanuela getting into a dark car, maybe a luxury model near her music school. Why does that stand out, you ask?
Oh, it's certainly more intriguing than an old beat-up car, isn't it? A detail like that suggests a certain level of premeditation, maybe even resources, and it just instantly elevates the complexity of this mystery.
Exactly. And then the calls begin. Ransom demands, mysterious clues. Honestly, it's like something you'd see in a movie.
Those initial calls are vital. Even if they turn out to be dead ends, they form the basis of all the early theories. Was Emanuela kidnapped for ransom? Was this an attempt to send a message? And if so, what message and who was it meant for? These are questions that have haunted investigators for decades.
So we have a missing Vatican citizen, shadowy figures making demands, and a location that's practically built on secrets. Where do we even begin to unravel something like this?
Well, that's where the investigation itself becomes a character in this intricate story because, as you pointed out, this wasn't just a missing person case. It involved the Vatican, a sovereign state with international influence. This instantly meant the eyes of the world were on this case, and the pressure to find answers was immense.
Okay, so get ready, because here's where we dive into the twists and turns that have captivated the world for decades.
Yeah.
As the days turned into weeks with no trace of Emanuela theories began to surface, many of them interwoven with some of the biggest scandals of the time.
Right.
It's like real-life events became fuel for these intricate narratives, especially with the disappearance as shrouded in secrecy as Emanuela's, don't you think?
Absolutely. And one of the most compelling theories involves the Vatican Bank. Not your everyday financial institution.
Not at all.
Right.
What was it about the Vatican Bank that made it so central to this theory? I bet some of our listeners have a few questions about this.
Well, in the early 1980s, the Vatican Bank was entangled in a massive scandal. A web of shell companies, secret accounts, clandestine dealings. We're talking large-scale money laundering and alleged connections to the Italian mafia. To make matters worse, Roberto Calvi, a central figure in all of this, was found hanged under a London bridge, and it looked very much like a carefully staged suicide.
Wow, that sounds more like a plot from a spy thriller than real life.
Yeah.
So how does Emanuela's disappearance fit into this intricate web of money and power?
The theory suggests that Emanuela's kidnapping was a way to manipulate the Vatican's finances.
Okay.
Perhaps an attempt to recover lost money, or to silence someone who possessed incriminating knowledge about the bank's, shall we say, shadowy dealings.
It's hard to imagine what it must have been like for investigators trying to navigate the intricate world of Vatican finances, organized crime, international intrigue.
Absolutely. It's like trying to piece together a shattered mirror with each shard reflecting a different facet of a much larger, much darker truth.
And if that wasn't enough, another theory linked Emanuela's disappearance to international terrorism.
And not just any terrorist group. We're talking about the Grey Wolves, a Turkish ultra-nationalist group. Imagine a group so fiercely devoted to their ideology that they were willing to go to any lengths to achieve their goals. Their most notorious member was Mehmet Ali Aska, who, as you might recall, attempted to assassinate the Pope just a couple of years before Emanuela vanished.
It's almost unfathomable. An attempted assassination of the Pope, followed by the disappearance of a young girl within the Vatican walls. How could these events possibly be connected?
Well, at the time of Emanuela's disappearance, Aska was imprisoned in Italy. Suddenly, these cryptic calls started coming in, suggesting that Emanuela had been taken hostage as leverage to secure his release.
And to add another layer of complexity, Aska himself added fuel to the fire by claiming to possess knowledge about Emanuela's disappearance. It's like he saw an opportunity to insert himself into an already chaotic and tragic situation.
Precisely. Whether he genuinely knew something or was simply trying to manipulate the situation remains unclear. What's certain is that his involvement only deepened the mystery surrounding Emanuela's fate.
Right.
It felt like everyone was searching for a connection, a thread that would link this baffling disappearance to a larger, more understandable narrative.
It's a very human response.
Yeah.
Trying to find order in chaos to make sense of the senseless.
Exactly. And that's the allure of these early theories. They connected Emanuela's disappearance to these monumental real-world events, to powerful institutions and shadowy figures.
Yeah.
They offered a glimmer of explanation in a situation that felt increasingly inexplicable.
Right.
However, as captivating as these theories were, it's crucial to remember that none of them have been definitively proven.
So we're left with more questions than answers.
For now, it seems that way. Despite years of investigation, countless claims and counterclaims, that crucial piece of the puzzle, the smoking gun, remains elusive.
So we've explored these theories involving international finance, terrorism. But what's truly unsettling is that some theories point to something even darker, something closer to home.
Yes, and these allegations are incredibly sensitive. It's crucial to approach this part of Emanuela's story with nuance and the utmost respect for everyone involved.
Absolutely. We're not here to spread rumors. We're here to examine the information that's out there.
Yeah.
And the fact is, there are theories suggesting that Emanuela's disappearance could be connected to a potential cover-up of abuse within the church itself.
You're right, and what makes these allegations so explosive is that they come from within the Vatican's own walls. Father Gabriele Amorth, a prominent figure who served as the Vatican's chief exorcist, publicly stated his belief that Emanuela had been kidnapped for sex parties involving Vatican officials.
Wow. That's a heavy accusation. It's hard to even know where to begin unpacking that.
It's a claim that strikes at the very core of the church's moral authority. It's important to clarify that while Father Amorth was a respected figure within the church, his claims about Emanuela were never substantiated.
And to be fair, the Vatican has always vehemently denied any involvement in Emanuela's disappearance.
True, but these allegations, regardless of their validity, continue to cast a shadow over the case.
It's almost like a real-life version of one of those dark fairy tales, where things that seem safe and familiar turn out to harbor something sinister beneath the surface.
That's a powerful way to put it. And if the thought of those allegations wasn't enough, when we have this episode with the tomb, it sounds like something straight out of a Dan Brown novel, wouldn't you say?
Right. It's almost hard to believe this actually happened.
Yeah.
So for those who might not know, tell us about this mysterious tomb.
Well, an anonymous tip claimed that Emanuela's remains were hidden within a specific tomb inside Vatican City. The family, clinging to any shred of hope, pushed for an investigation. Can you imagine the weight of their grief? The desperate hope for answers?
Oh, absolutely.
And incredibly, the Vatican actually permitted an exhumation.
Which, just to clarify for our listeners, is extremely rare. The Vatican granting permission to disturb sacred ground like that. It's almost unheard of.
Exactly. But when they finally opened the tomb, it was completely empty. No Emanuela, no remains of those meant to be buried there, nothing. Just more questions, more silence.
And if that wasn't enough of a gut punch, a few years later, human bones were found during renovations in a Vatican building. It felt like maybe finally there was a break in the case, but it wasn't meant to be, was it?
Sadly, no. The bones turned out to be far too old to be Emanuela's. Another dead end, another cruel twist of fate in a case full of them.
It's hard to fathom the anguish Emanuela's family has endured. Decades of searching, of demanding answers, of being caught in this web of speculation.
And that's what makes this case so enduring, so captivating. You have the backdrop of the Vatican, an institution cloaked in history and secrecy, intertwined with real-world events like financial scandals, international terrorism.
Yeah.
And at the heart of it all, a young girl who simply vanished. It's a story that begs for resolution, for justice, for answers that seem perpetually out of reach.
After everything we've uncovered it makes you wonder, what does it say about power? About truth itself? When a case like this can remain unsolved for so long, if you were tasked with starting an investigation now, Where would you even begin? It feels nearly impossible to separate fact from fiction.
It's a case that captures the imagination, that forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about the world we live in, and it reminds us that sometimes even in the search for truth, some mysteries may forever remain unsolved.
And as we step back from this deep dive, it leaves a lingering sense of unease, a reminder that, as you said, some mysteries might never be truly solved. It makes you stop and think, doesn't it? Thanks for joining us for another deep dive.